All right, well, good evening, everybody. I'm Police Chief Eric Scarpin. Welcome to the Marysville Opera House, and welcome again to our online audience as well. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker for tonight, the Mayor, Jon Nehring, to deliver the State of Marysville 2022. Mayor Nehring.
Thank you, Chief Scarpin. Appreciate that. Hopefully everything the sound's coming through okay online and here in the room. I know it is. And I really appreciate, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's great to see you live here. I know last year we just did a straight virtual one. We wanted to offer it both live here in the Opera House as well as online for those who wanted to join us on Facebook Live. So thrilled to have you here. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We're going to start with a short video, which I'm really excited about. I want to thank our team for putting that together, Bridget and Connie and the communications team. Just to give some of the highlights of the year. I thought it'd be a good way to kick it off, then I'll come back up and get going. So enjoy the video.
And thank you for joining us for another virtual coffee class here this evening.
We're here to celebrate the opening of this beautiful addition to our parks inventory.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I trust and have personally witnessed how our local business owners have taken great care when allowed to be open to provide for the safety of both their employees and their customers.
I think some cities would probably throw in the towel on certain things, but our folks really think outside the box. They find ways to get stuff built, and they find ways to get it done on budget and ahead of time. This is we paid for this.
That's right.
Yeah.
I hopefully enjoyed that video. I want to thank the team for putting that together. We've been collecting some video throughout the year, and I think it's a fun way to share some of the highlights of things that have gone on in the city. Before I get started, too, I did want to thank some folks. I think it's really important. We've got an amazing team here at the City of Marysville. And so when we talk about state of the city and accomplishments and what we're doing next year and things of that nature, I think it's really good to recognize the entire team. And so I wanted to, first of all, thank Connie Meny for her work in helping put this together, as well as Bridget Larson. Maybe we'll hold applause for the end, because I got a few more. But Leah, Taco, Katie, and Katie over here have both helped put and organize this event tonight. So thank you both for that. And then our director team, starting with Chief Scarpin, who you heard from a little bit ago, our relatively new police chief, although he's been here for a while now. Chief McFalls from the fire team. And then if we could go in the back, our Director of IT, Worth Norton, back there. Director Haley Miller, if you could just raise your hand if you're a director. When I call your name, that would be great. Director Sandy Langdon, thanks Sandy. Director Jeff Laycock. Director Karen Latimer, they're both Public Works Directors. And Director Jason Smith, Human Resources. And also, I wanted to thank our City Attorney, John Walker. I don't know if John's joining us online, but John's not here tonight, but I want to thank him as well for the great work that he does. And our CAO, Gloria Hiroshima, is out of town also, but I wanted to recognize her. And Sandy, who I introduced earlier, is Director of Finance. Haley is the Director of Community Development. Who did I miss? I probably missed somebody. Did I miss any of the directors? Please raise your hand if I did. Oh, Susie, yes, from our court team. Thanks, Susie. I appreciate you coming tonight as well. And then on our city council, I wanted to thank our city council too. Everything you're going to see tonight, they've had a huge hand in. And so Councilmember Tom King, if you could raise your hand on council. Councilmember Kelly Richards. Councilmember Mark James, I know is here somewhere, yes. Council President Camille Norton, is Camille here? Yeah, there's Camille. And then we have Councilmember Jeff Vaughn as well. Councilmember Michael Stevens, and Councilmember Steve Muller. I think I got everybody. So, and there's a whole team of folks to thank at the city, all of the staff and the folks that, as you well know, when we get down to the street level, our police officers and our streets crew just do an amazing job. So here's a city snapshot for you. I'd like to update you every year on kind of the population and what we're looking at. Second largest city in the county behind Everett, 18th largest in the state at this point in time, still growing quite robustly. Next, let's move on to a snapshot of finance. I think this is critical to point out. When we look at a city, we always start with budget because that's really where things begin. But I wanted to break it out a little bit differently this year by general fund and enterprise fund, because I get a lot of questions on this. So enterprise fund means fee for service. So as you can see there, the bulk of your taxes or fees go to enterprise funds like water, sewer, garbage, things like that. What that means is they can't be used for anything else. So when you pay your water, sewer, garbage bill, the city council or myself, nobody can say, well, we're going to take some of that and use it for police or streets. So that's an enterprise fund. All the money has to stay in that enterprise. Then the general fund is that other piece right there, the $56 million. So this is a one-year budget. That's the portion that I'll present. I present a budget on the whole thing, but that's the one where I'll present a budget to the council with recommendations. The council will go through that, and ultimately it's the council's prerogative and duty to pass a budget every year. And so they will have the final say on what that budget looks like, both the enterprise fund and the general fund. But the general fund's the key one when you're talking about how many police do we hire, paving streets, building new streets, parks, all the programs we put on, all those things come out of your general fund. So when you say, well, it's a $126 million city budget or whatever it ends up being, remember that less than half of that is general fund where there's really decisions to be made. Also, as you can see there, I always get this question a lot too. People say, well, you know, all these property taxes going to the city or whatnot. When you open up your property tax bill, whatever it is, roughly 10% of that goes to the city. 1 out of every $10 goes to the city of your property taxes. And so I think it's important to keep that in mind as well. Your city council has not raised the city's portion of the property taxes in, I can't even remember the last time. It's probably been at least 8 years. And so I think that's important to remember. Our finance team has done incredible work to get us to a AA+ bond rating. What that means is the debt of the city is at a lower interest rate than it was before we got that bond rating. And so we're saving taxpayer dollars because we have such a sound fiscal house right now. And so we get a lower interest rate when we go out for bonds. And so that means you're paying less of your tax dollars for interest on things that we take out loans on. So that's critical. AA+. Sandy and her team back there have worked incredibly hard on that. We've been on rate calls many times, and Sandy sweats those out. And just what I love about Sandy, one of the many things I love about her work is she sweats all the details, and her and her team are really largely responsible for that, as well as for 14 years of clean audits consecutively. Nothing's really more important when it comes to transparency than how your tax dollars are spent. And so critical stuff there. Moving on a little bit to the next slide, and I think we wanted to talk just a bit about the CARES funds and some of the COVID relief packages that we put out. And so the important thing with that is we did get some money from the federal government, and what we did is put together different packages throughout the shutdown primarily and brought recommendations, and the council ultimately passed this right here. Almost $1.4 million in business relief grants, and you can see the rest of it there. A total of over $1.8 million went out into the community to help folks through this time. We received so much input, both from individuals with the residential grants, utility grants, and also an amazing amount from businesses. You know, the type of businesses that received these grants were not Walmart, Costco, things like that, although those are very important businesses in our community. The type of businesses that applied for and received these grants were the creamery, you know, things like that. Small, in many cases, family-owned businesses, medium-sized businesses. These are the businesses that really concerned all of us as elected officials and city staff as we were dealing with this situation over the last couple of years, is how do we make sure, or do the best that we can to make sure these businesses survive and continue to serve and employ people in this city. I thought that the shutdowns were overly harsh on businesses and on our local business community, and it was our goal to ensure that we did everything we can to help them through. And I want to applaud our city council. There was real unity amongst the council and our administration on this, and ultimately the council has the final say in that and sent that money out into the community, and I think it's paid off with very few folks that have gone out of business in our community. Separately from just the COVID relief are CDBG funds. These are grants that we get as a city. We're a large enough city now that we get community development block grant funds, about 300,000 plus there that go out. These help low-income and vulnerable residents in our community in a variety of different ways. You can see some of the different programs there that we support. And I think it's a great program and a critical way we can help folks in a time of need, whether it's through places like the Marysville Food Bank, Housing Hope for housing, or whatever it might be. Next up, kind of in this area, the council will also be looking, in fact, later this month, we're going to be having an in-depth discussion on how to use the American Rescue Plan funds that we got as a city. So getting into some projects and some priorities, public safety, passionate about public safety, as I know probably everybody in this room is. Keeping our community safe is the top priority. You know, you can do a lot of things really well, but people must feel safe in their community. And there's no perfectly safe place, but they must feel that they're protected and that public safety is prioritized in their community, and it is here in Marysville. So we'll break this down into some broad themes. I want to applaud Chief Scarpin. If you haven't had a chance to meet the chief, I just couldn't be more happy with the selection we made as police chief here a year and a half or so ago. And he and his team over there at the Marysville PD are doing amazing work. And I'll talk about some of the challenges they face, and it becomes even more amazing in the face of the headwinds that is going on in our, you know, in our city and state and county and country right now. We like to be really transparent with crime rates. So, you know, when they're going down, we'll show you, and when they uptick like they did last year, we're going to show you that as well. So you see the steady decline there from, I think it's 2014 through 2020. And we did have an uptick in 2021. Chief and I meet on this every other week. We talk almost every day, but we specifically sit down and meet on this kind of thing every other week on a Friday, and we'll go over this type of thing. And I think there's two things to think about. One, I think if you look, to me, the best comparison, in all honesty, is 2019 to 2021, because we all know that 2020 was a complete aberration. Most everybody was at home. Not a lot of people were out doing stuff, so there's fewer cars to break into, fewer cars to steal, harder to break into homes when everybody's in them all the time, et cetera, et cetera. So we saw a dramatic drop in crime in 2020, and I remember the chief and I saying, this is not sustainable. It's an abnormal drop in crime. So, but you know, we took credit for the drop in crime in 2020, so we'll go ahead and take the 2021 increase. But in reality, if you're looking at this fairly, I think comparing it 2019 to 21 is a better comparison. And so you'll see a steady drop in crime if you eliminate 2020. But what we do realize is that we have some strong headwinds out there, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Calls for service for our police, 64,000 plus, 64,355. You see kind of that's been all over the place. What's important in that stat too is 1/3 of those, roughly, well, 38% were officer-initiated calls. Why is that important? That means your officers aren't just out responding to 911 calls all the time. Over 1/3 of the calls were officer initiated. They're driving through neighborhoods, they're driving around, and they're seeing things and they're calling it in. So it's recorded so they can get backup and all those things. We love proactive policing here in Marysville. We would like to do more of it. And so that's something that's important to remember. Average response time is 9 minutes and 5 seconds, which is really good. But let's keep in mind that does not include, if you call 911, because somebody's been assaulted in your home, or somebody's standing outside your door banging on the door with a gun, or there's a domestic violence situation. Those are category 1, priority 1 calls, and our average response time on those is right about 4 minutes, 4 minutes and 4 seconds. And so that's incredibly good. So wherever you are in the city, that's kind of what we're looking at. We made 2,430 arrests this past year, 5,797 cases were dealt with, and 4,693 citations. We're going to get to Spyder Tech here, which is a system that the chiefs implemented, which I love, which is to kind of measure our customer service. I'm a big believer in customer service, as is our team here at Marysville, across departments. And in order to really tell if you're doing a good job, you've got to measure it. And so this shows where we're at, and our police have a very high rating there, as you can see, 97% satisfaction, 94 satisfied with their individual interactions with our police force. So those are really good numbers. And those are important numbers for us to keep track of. If we see those dip, we know we've got to work on certain things, but I'm really pleased with what we're seeing right there. And our embedded social worker team is one I want to talk about. You see Rochelle and Mike right there. They are the embedded, well, we've actually expanded the team, but they're the ones who kind of were the first in on this. So the bulk of, when we talk about crime and the upticks and the arrests, honestly, the bulk of our crime, I think if you ask Chief Scarpin, I know he would say it's drug related. That's no secret. That's across the county, across the state, probably in most areas of the country. Most of the crime you see is drug related. We have to face that fact. People are breaking into homes and stores, they're stealing cars, they're stealing copper, they're stealing whatever they can get their hands on in order to get drugs. In most instances, that's where most of those type of crimes come from. Not all of them, most of them. And so we've got to attack this drug problem seriously. And I think as a state, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I think we've stepped backwards in that fight. And I would hope you would join me in encouraging our state legislators to try and beef up our laws against drug crimes. And here's how that gets real. So our embedded social worker team, which we put into place about 3.5, 4 years ago, they go out into the streets, and people that have maybe some of this stuff on the books, maybe they've broken into a car, they're illegally trespassing on private property, they're doing any number of things. But they have an ongoing drug or substance abuse problem. These guys will say, hey, let's get you into a treatment center, because we could cycle you into jail and through the court system, and you'll be back out here in a few weeks, and we'll do it again and again and again. And we'll play that game if that's the only option we have. If they don't want to meet us part of the way there, we'll do that, because there has to be consequences. But the real success story would be getting this person into treatment, getting them free of their drug problem or whatever substance problem they have, getting them a second chance at life, wrapping some temporary housing around them, job training, whatever it takes. And then we don't have this problem that we're dealing with out in the street. So that's the true answer out of it. So Mike and Rochelle and the expanded team, which we've actually added to this team here real recently, made 1,729 engagements that you see there, 30 mental health assessments. Sometimes it's just a mental health issue that we're dealing with out on the streets, not a substance abuse issue. That's important to remember. 166 substance abuse assessments. My favorite stats are coming up here. How many people did we get graduated through a drug treatment program? One thing to get them started, they sometimes pull out. We graduated this year 46 people out of drug treatment off our streets. Yeah, worth a hand to the team. This team helped 57 people secure housing. We have a partnership also with Arlington, Lake Stevens, the Tulalip Tribes, and a grant-funded program called Impact that helps add to this embedded social worker team. So we share a couple of other embedded social workers, and we also have budgeted positions to expand this team. So this is an ongoing part of our strategy. But I will tell you this, if those individuals won't meet us, and eventually after several contacts and pleading with them and asking them to take this path, if they say no, and refuse to do that, then we will prosecute the crimes and we will seek to put them in jail, because I don't believe in, and our police department does not believe in, a zero consequences policy of stealing from people and things like that. So there are consequences in Marysville. We would rather you take the route that helps you the most and the community the most, but if you won't, then we'll do the tougher thing. And so that's a good segue to jail. Well, we had 1,090 bookings last year. I think our jail staff did an amazing job. We did not have any COVID breakouts in our jail, which over 2 years is pretty remarkable, to be honest. So they've done a great job in protecting the staff as well as the inmates there. We're of course preparing our staffing for the new jail at the Civic Campus. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but staffing up for that. And then we're hiring and recruiting all over the police department. So this is where I want to say also that the chief tells me every time we meet, and I'm 100% with him, we've had to take our PROAC policing teams and move them into patrol, because what we've got across this state and this country really right now is a lack of police officers. And I don't think it's any mystery why. There's not a lot of people that want to get into police work right now in the current climate that we're in. And so, for instance, the city council has budgeted a load of officer positions. We've got probably over a dozen or close to a dozen open positions in Marysville right now. Every time we hire a few more will retire or decide that it's time to move on to something else. And so this is what you'll see across the state. You talk to other cities, I mean, there'll be 15 openings, 19, 12, 30. If you go to a city like Seattle, there's probably hundreds. And so what you have right now is, I'm really pleased with the proactivity our team has had with that 38% that I told you are officer-initiated calls. We could do much better. In the old days when we were able to staff almost fully, we had a full PROAC team. It was a night team that went into neighborhoods and looked at drug houses and looked at all this stuff proactively. I went out with them. We would just go knock on the door of a known drug house, check in, see how things are going. There had been a call-in complaint maybe, or things like that, or there was a camera that caught something. Whatever it was, those are the things we'd like to get back to, but we have to be able to staff up. I mean, you can't have 911 calls go unanswered because you've got a PROAC team. And so I want people to know that the positions are budgeted. They're budgeted all over the state and in a lot of places, but we've got to find officers. Our team's doing a magnificent job. We've hired a number of officers from Seattle that were looking for another place to work. We've hired a lot of laterals from other places that want to work in Marysville, and then they come here and they go talk to their friends in those departments. And so we're making headway, but we also have a lot of folks that are getting towards retirement, so we got to keep that going. But it's just a great job by the team. They're also, I wanted to talk about their automated external defibrillators that they have in all their patrol cars now to save lives. This is a really great thing. We got 10 from the fire district. Thank you, Chief McFalls, and also with grant funds from the State Chiefs Association and Still-Gamish Tribe, we're able to purchase the rest. Body-worn cameras is something that we're implementing. This is something that is helping us comply with certain state laws. I think it also protects the officers in a lot of situations and protects everybody. So this will be something that we had on a trial basis that we'll be fully implementing this year. Working also, just to kind of close this out. So as I mentioned, there was a lot of state laws passed last year which have really made it more difficult for our officers to protect the community. I'm always going to be honest with folks on that. That's just the honest truth. We meet on this all the time, and it's more difficult right now. I mean, you could read, I think there was an article in the Times, this is no secret, on some of the issues with trying to get folks where a judge has ordered them to be, due to mental health issues, to be put somewhere. Officers can't force it, so the individuals can just walk away and walk down the street. They can't chase them down. There's other issues with, if you see, certain things, officers' hands are tied. They have to stop and go question people before they can chase down somebody that's pretty obviously was the one who stole something from a store. They can't stop and necessarily question them right off the bat. So there's a whole host of different things that I think are pretty easily corrected or clarified. We just are asking our state legislators to do that in this session. And I think, frankly, we're on the way towards that. We've had some really, really good conversations with our state legislators. The chief's been a leader on this with the State Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. And I think there's a real opportunity in 2022 to correct and clarify and maybe balance out some of the things that were done last year that led to an emboldened criminal element in our society who knows that they're able to get away with more and is taking full advantage of it. And I think also, it was interesting that this isn't just legislatively driven. There was a state Supreme Court decision that basically said you can't arrest people for drug use and you had to jump through different hoops. I think it was just a day or two after that, the chief was out on a ride along and he told me, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but I think you came across somebody who was doing drugs in their car or passed out in their car. And she literally told them, there's nothing you can do to me. And so they know that. And so these are things, it hurts us because when our embedded social worker team goes and tries to use the things for leverage that we used to be able to do, say, hey, you get into treatment and we won't prosecute on this stuff. When you whittle away and there's fewer and fewer things to prosecute, guess what? They start saying, well, wait a minute here. I don't necessarily have to go into treatment. A lot of times what drives people to treatment is what's behind door 2. Do I want to go to jail? Do I want to face prosecution? Do I want to face this? No, I'll take the treatment option. Without those elements there, it makes it a lot harder. Marysville Fire District, let's move on to fire. Chief McFall's team has done an amazing job. And 86% of those calls up there are EMS related, and a lot of that has been a huge challenge here these last couple of years, I know the chief would say, but they've done a remarkable job. Also, they tapped in about 812 fire inspections. And I think when you look at fire loss in our community, it is about 3.4 million. That's something they're always trying to whittle down, and so their communication out after a fire is critical to figuring out how we can prevent these in the future. They also have what's called, I think you call them Skibas, self-contained breathing apparatuses that were purchased with a $470,000 firefighter grant that all of them have as well. So they're wearing those now, which is a great thing. They also helped with a beta group for installation and testing and upgrading our countywide emergency radio system. They were on the front lines of that, which was great. And if you know CPR, we wanted to point this out too, you can download the free Pulse Point Respond app and receive notifications at the same time that our first responders do. So that's kind of a neat new thing that they did here. And so this team will be moving, the administration team will be moving into the old police headquarters here after we move them into the new Civic Campus. Municipal Court, Susie back there is representing our court. They just do amazing work. Outside of the box thinking, kind of similar to our social worker program in the police department. 8,700 cases filed with them this year. But our judges and Susie and the team over there have instituted a mental health alternatives program, a MAP program, which is fantastic. I remember they presented this to me a while back, and I just thought it was incredible. I've been to these MAP graduations, and this is the type of thing, and I believe I'm getting this right. I hope I am. The prosecutor and the defense attorney have to agree, as well as the judge, that this person before us could go through this program as an alternative to incarceration, come out the other side better, kind of like I described with our drug treatment program. And it's been really successful for the folks that they deem will qualify. And it's not a ton, but there are a number of them that have gone through that. They've been doing remote hearings. You can kind of see that there. Use some of their care reimbursement grants to get that through. And they've also received a therapeutic court grant to help with substance abuse evaluations. But this court does amazing work. It's always busy, and we appreciate the great work that they do. Kind of moving out of public safety into streets. Transportation infrastructure. This is something else I'm passionate about, as I know many of you are. As the city grows, we've got to continue to grow our infrastructure and improve our infrastructure. State Avenue 100 to 104th, our public works team did an amazing job. They always do such incredible work getting grant dollars. They secured a $6.2 million grant that's paying for a large portion of this State Avenue widening project. And so this one, the impact to you as drivers is almost over. And so we'll get that done. There'll still be some work under the bridge. But this is going to widen this area of State from 3 to 5 lanes. And just on the heels of that, we've secured already, our team has secured another grant to help widen 104th to 116th, a $4 million grant to help with that. That one will be a little easier because there's no bridge work. That's what made this one so expensive. But after, so we'll start design on that in 2022. I think construct that in 2023. Is that right, Jeff? Perfect. And so as of the end of 2023, you'll have 5 lanes all throughout State, which I think is a huge improvement. But you have to also preserve the pavement we're putting down. And so that's why we have an aggressive pavement preservation program. And our council is diligent about putting up usually around $2 million every single year into preserving pavement in our community. That means overlays, sidewalks, sidewalk repair, ADA implementation, things like that. And so some of the projects you saw here last year were State Avenue from Grove to 80th, 47th Avenue from 84th to 76th Street Northeast. Some of the ones you'll see this year, 152nd Northeast from Smoky Point Boulevard to the BNSF Rail Spur, 51st from 152nd all the way to the north limit of the city, and Schultes from 100th to 108th. So important to preserve that pavement. We get at that every year. I wanted to update you on this program too. This I've talked, if you've attended other State of the Cities, I've talked about this every single year almost. We fought really hard to get this I-5-529 freeway interchange and the northbound HOV lane into the what was called the Connecting Washington package that the state legislature passed in 2016. And here I really want to applaud our local state legislators that really fought hard with us to get this and the 156th interchange in that package for Marysville. They deserve an incredible amount of credit. These represent over $100 million of investment into Marysville's infrastructure. And so those who are serving in our state legislature, particularly those who represent us in the 38th, 39th, and 44th, deserve a lot of credit for that. So this will create an extra lane from Marine Drive into South Marysville on I-5. And it will then also create a freeway interchange off onto Highway 529. So then it'll split that traffic off. Right now, exit 199 is jam-packed. You've got people exiting off to go to Tulalip with the new casino there. You've got people getting off to go to Marysville through traffic that's trying to get up to 9 to go to Arlington or Granite Falls or maybe even Lake Stevens in certain cases. So this exit 199 is a failing intersection. It backs all the way up onto I-5 when the train's coming through at times, and it's just, it needs help. So we want to split some of the Sunnyside and the East Side Foothills traffic off from that and get it to exit off further south. And your city council funded a First Street bypass, which is already operational. If you haven't driven that, I would encourage you to. So you'll be able to jump off of this exit, come up, turn right onto the First Street bypass and just shoot straight up and make your way up into Sunnyside or into the fastest growing areas of our community. And the through traffic will be able to do that and get in and out of our city quicker too. So this project is critical, all fully funded, ready to go, supposed to go out and start construction in 2022. And so Jeff and I, Laycock and I, got on a very, let's say it was one of the least fun times I've had on a phone call with anybody. Back in late November, early December, when the state informed us that they'd gone out to bid 2 times and they had not gotten 1 bid within the amount budgeted for due to supply chain crisis, inflation, worker shortage, et cetera, all the things that we read about every day. And so they shaved some dollars off, went out again, weren't able to get any successful bidders. So now we're faced with a situation where we really need to backfill more money into this project to keep it on time. And nobody's bidding within the amount. Nobody wants to work for the amount that would have paid for it a short time ago. Again, to the credit of our state legislators, I've been on the phone with them regularly since this came about, as Jeff has. We've been getting regular updates. City Council and I met with, I think we had 10 legislative meetings last week on this item, met with the Senate and House Transportation chairs, all our legislators. There is really good commitment. Our legislators are fighting hard for the money to backfill this. This is a really important Snohomish County program. And so cautiously optimistic that they'll make the move this year to backfill that money, keep this on track, and keep this project slated for a beginning of construction late 2022 and completion in 2024. Cedar Avenue, right outside the Opera House here. This is, if you saw the construction going on, I know it's a little tough to park right now and some different things, but this is kind of what we're looking at to finish this off. I'm excited about this between 1st and 4th. There'll be some bioretention areas, permeable pavers to treat street water runoff. Replaces a portion of the old cast iron water main at 2nd and Cedar as well. So an important project in a number of different ways, both for environmental as well as aesthetically and traffic-wise. I think you're going to find that real improvement down here. Largely funded again by a grant by the State Department of Ecology that our team wrote and was successful in. Similar improvements to 3rd Street are coming to 2nd. So you will see some of those improvements that you see there. Similar bioretention, planter boxes, traffic circles, and some boulevard medians, and some nice aesthetic landscaping improvements. So we're trying to beautify this whole area as kind of a cultural center in our downtown. And again, we want to thank the Department of Ecology, a grant we received for 2nd Avenue there as well. That project on 2nd will go out to bid in the spring with construction summer and fall of this year. This stormwater retention project, I want to point out, I really like this as well. It's a stormwater project. You think, well, that's not very glamorous. In some ways it isn't, but it's critical. This will treat over 460 acres of stormwater in the south downtown area. but it incorporates kind of an aesthetically pleasing park feel to it in some ways. And so I think that's, it just makes the whole thing look better. So I appreciate the team that's designing this and putting this together, and looking forward to that improvement. Water tower renovation, you've probably seen the water tower. You haven't seen the water tower, you've seen the big drape over the water tower lately. It is getting some improvements, several layers of paint back to the bare metal, fixing the metal areas that needed fixing, putting some other amenities on there that'll help us with lighting and things of that nature, and then getting a full new coat of paint and some other things. So the water tower turned 100 years old last November, right, Peter? 100 years old, I think. I think Peter had some nice information on that online, and so this fresh new look will be exciting to unveil here, hopefully by the first part of March, if not a little earlier. Water, sewer, garbage services, we wanted to throw some things up there about that. Our public works crews and our utility crews do amazing work here. That just gives you some stats on that. Also like to always welcome our new businesses formally. It would take quite a long time to read them off, but you can maybe read through them there while I say that I really appreciate our team in community development and the whole team really. The city council and I really believe in a business-friendly city. Small, medium, and large businesses, we want to be welcoming. Businesses employ people, they provide services to our community. I always tell this story, and this would be completely different today, but when I first ran for city council back in 2001 and doorbelled thousands of houses throughout this community, you know what the number one thing I heard was? Can you get more shops and businesses here, more commercial entities? I don't want to buy my cars in Everett or Linwood. I don't want to go out to eat in those places. I want to go to Costco in Marysville. I want to go to Target in Marysville, Best Buy, all these. And so we set out to do that. And my predecessor, Mayor Kendall, did a really good job at attracting a lot of that in. And as a council, we made a commitment to that. And now we have a lot of that, right? You can buy it. We have an auto row. We have big box stores. We have smaller stores. We have great restaurants. We have great establishments like, in our downtown where you can go have coffee and enjoy things. So these are some of the new businesses that came in, so we want to just recognize them and thank them for doing business in Marysville. We don't know everybody who will come in 2022, but here's the ones that have kind of announced and that we're free to share. Coconut Kenny's was an interesting one to me. I've never been to one, but I hear they're really awesome. I think Bellingham is maybe the nearest one. Councilmember James gave me a thumbs up on that. So hopefully you'll enjoy some of these. Soil Organics, another very interesting company, but these are all coming in 22 and probably a lot more as well. That gets us to the jobs portion of our economic plan, the Cascade Industrial Center. We've talked about this in State of the Cities a lot. This is the area from out in North Marysville, and it's about 1,700 acres of Marysville and another 2,300 acres in South Arlington, 4,000 acres total. And we've been really diligent as a team. The council's been diligent in this, as has our administration, in protecting this as a jobs base for our community. A lot of developers, countless developers have wanted to come in and rezone this for housing and said it'll never turn into any business development center. It won't happen. But we've stayed firm with that vision because we've got already a lot of housing in the community, and of course we're going to have more. We have more housing coming in all the time. Haley could tell you it never stops. But this is kind of the last area to preserve for industrial or jobs type base, and we would like to provide some level of opportunity for people to get family wage jobs in Marysville. Too many people have to commute outside of Marysville, hit I-5 or 405 to go find those jobs. Some people may want to still do that. There's no doubt about it. There's always going to be people that commute out, but we want to have at least the opportunity for some folks, if they want to work close to Marysville. Some of our kids growing up, going through our school system now, if they want to learn a trade or whatever they want to do and work in Marysville in their community, we want that opportunity to be there for them. So that's what the Cascade Industrial Center is about. It's been in the making for a long, long time. We got the designation as an industrial center a couple years ago, and then with the interchange coming, 156 full interchange coming, with starting construction in 2025, this place has started to really boom, and you see some of the things coming in out there right now. If you've driven out there, North Point is one of the ones putting up a number of industrial buildings, and we also have MI5 out there. We have Salacia fish processing plant. and a number of others. So this is a critical thing, and hopefully we'll be able to employ more people in Marysville. This could hold up to 20,000 jobs out there, and so we're excited about the potential. Another area is the downtown master plan update that the council attacked here at the end of 2021. This is kind of a visual of that. These kind of plans take a long time, just like the Cascade Industrial Center did. Some of the plans you're seeing implemented right now, like the First Street bypass, that State Avenue project, these things all take time, but you've got to start somewhere. This expands the downtown boundary, increased housing options, including the missing middle. There's actually a tax exemption for multifamily housing down here. If developers want to come in and do that, we think this is a great place for some multifamily housing and some affordable housing by transit lines. We're going to get a Swift line through here, community transit, Swift line, bus rapid transit. And so it's a form-based code, kind of a design consistency down there that you'll see. And so we're looking forward to seeing that implemented again over several years. Part of that is the Civic Campus here that you see. The Civic Campus, this was built, as voter approved like 2-3 years ago now, with a sales tax, voter approved for the public safety building, which you see on the north side there. And then we have the rest of the services there in the tower portion. The idea here is to get the public facing customer service portion of our city all in one spot. And the main need was public safety. If you've been in our current police headquarters, I think you've got commanders working out of closets, and our jail is completely inadequate, particularly in this age where if you bring somebody in that has a drug issue and they're detoxing for 2 or 3 days, that's a messy process. We have a dormitory style old jail, and so you've got to clear entire dorms out. So where you could house 15 or 16 folks, now you've got to clear it out for one. There's a whole host of issues around that. This new jail will provide 2 bunk cells all throughout it, so we don't have that problem. All of a sudden you can detox somebody and not completely limit how many people you can bring into your jail. It's also important to have a functioning jail in your community, not because we want a lot of criminals at all. We'd love to have empty jails, but because the cities that don't have jails catch and release. And that happens all over the place. Linwood and Marysville are only 2 with jails within your city. So if there's a situation where maybe you can't get into the county jail, or you can't get somewhere or whatever, a lot of these crimes are catch and release for the misdemeanors and things of that nature, not violent crimes. But it's one of the tools we can use to try and help encourage people not to commit crimes in our community. So we're excited about this. I think the public safety portion, which is the priority, will be built and completed probably around June to move them in. The rest towards the end of August. So you have kind of a one-stop shop for your city services. We'll sell off the old city hall and some of the other buildings and help pay for this. And I think it's important to note too, the outdoor area, the Comfort Park area, will be completely redesigned. So you'll have kind of an amphitheater setting. The spray park will stay there. There'll be lighted pathways, the ability to have some big community events out there. So we envision this as a real community gathering place here at this Civic Center. We're excited about it, excited about what it means to our community. A lot of things people have said throughout the years is we need more of an identity as a community, a place to kind of call home. And this may help fill that a little bit, along with some of the other private sector things happening in the downtown, so we're excited about that. As we move on then, I think the next one we're going to get into Parks, Culture, and Recreation. You saw the Olympic View Park grand opening on the video, so I won't belabor that too much, other than to say if you haven't visited, I would encourage you to. It's just wonderful views of the whole EB estuary and Olympic Mountains. It's got a little rock scramble and slide for the kids and a picnic area up there, restroom facilities. So another state recreation and conservation grant helped us pay for this. So again, our Parks, Culture, and Recreation team helped us secure a grant for that. The Bayview Centennial Connector, that's, boy, if you like walking, running, biking, doing anything on trails, this is a huge asset for our community. It provides a way to connect to Centennial Trail from Marysville. Before you would have had to cross Highway 9. Obviously, it was difficult for walkers and bikers and whatnot. This is a beautiful trail. You saw our ribbon cutting out there in the video, and that was an accident that gentleman was riding his bike through there, but it worked out great. And so I would encourage you to get on this if you haven't and enjoy this. As a neat little side, the Gell House that's at Jenny's Park was actually originated from this area. This is where the Gell House was built and where people resided, and it was back in this area. It's now at the Jenny's Park area as a historical asset of our community. So great project partners here, Army Corps of Engineers, the Snohomish County, the Marysville School District. We had a real parking problem here. The school district worked with us to allow that gravel portion down at Getchell High School to be used there. So we want to thank our partners at the school district for that as well. South Marysville Trail Connector. This is kind of the other end where we're working with the city of Lake Stevens to create another connection to the south off of kind of the Bayview Trail area. So we got $500,000 from the state to work with Lake Stevens to design this. And then we'll be designing it this year and going after construction money after that to try and connect south. Some recreation highlights. You know, I want to thank our Parks, Culture, and Recreation team. And what we tried to do throughout the last couple of years is not shut things down, think outside of the box, think of ways to do things. We kept our 4th of July show when most of them were canceled. We kept a lot of our programs. We were able to do it safely. You know, we had to look at the youngster there with that fish. We had our fishing derby. Puchella was a great event I was at with my dog with a lot of participants. We've had scavenger hunts, spring soccer, 460 kids. What we did is created a community light display too, where people could just go drive the lights on their own. And that was so popular. We thought we'd do it for 1 year, but people wanted it back this year, even though we did the electric lights parade and everything. So we'll keep that going, I suppose, as long as folks find it an asset. Moving on, Cedar Crest Golf Course. Boy, this is just an amazing story. The council members here will know. This used to be a yearly conundrum for all of us in government because this thing was losing money every single year. We were loaning money from the general fund to keep it going. And now we brought in Premier Golf a few years ago, private sector company, and they've just done an amazing job, Premier Golf, as well as our team at Parks, Culture, and Recreation. And as a team, they've built this into a real success story. The last 3 years, 2019, 1.3 million in revenue, 1.5 in 2020, 1.7 in 2021. They beat their budget projections that we had for them by 51% last year. And we've paid off our final debt on this golf course in December of last year. So we're free and clear now. We're in a situation where this thing will be self-sustaining and we can begin to do some much needed repairs along the course as well. This is a big community asset. You know, even if you're not a golfer, this is a great community asset. And just in case it ever crossed anybody's mind, this isn't something which you can just do away with a golf course and sell it and build houses or whatever. This was granted to the city and it has to remain some form of parkland. So at least as a golf course, if you're just thinking purely financially, it brings in money. If you just emptied it out and had it sit there and be a passive park, you know, obviously then it wouldn't make any money. But that's a great asset for our community. I think it's awesome to have a golf course, and the amount of people that love utilizing this facility, and then the restaurant up there, I think is a great community asset. Cedar Field, we had to include this even though it was done in 2020. The kids didn't get out until April or March, I think, of 21. That was a great night, opening night for Little League out there, and great to see our kids using that. Cedar Crest Vista Playground's another one we opened this past year, and we are really excited to open up the pickleball courts. We need 2 more days of really good weather this spring to do some finishing on those courts, and then they'll be able to be open for business. It was, I think, really eye-opening to the council and I how many people are passionate about pickleball in our community. Boy, I mean, we had some folks come out and just really ask for this facility. A lot of them are playing down at Cedar Crest right now, middle school, on the old tennis courts down there. They're just taping off lines, and so this will be a great asset. Strawberry Fields Athletic Park, this is another huge asset. We're working with Snohomish County, a great partner on some proposed improvements that we hope will go through here in 2022 or early 2023 to add artificial turf to one of these fields, some limited bleacher seating, also a brand new playground to provide a play area for our kids in the north part of the city where there's kind of a lack of that, and then some dog park improvements out in that area. Mother Nature's window as we get towards the close here. So think of your questions. Happy to take questions and answers after we're done here. I love that part of this, so I'll stay here as long as you want. We'll take online questions and we'll take questions from the audience here. But we have a few more things to go. Just this Mother Nature's window. Phase 1 of this project there will kind of start the process of creating an access road for people and parking. If you haven't been in Mother Nature's window, if you go out into this area, you feel like you're almost up in the mountains. It feels like you're completely out of the city into a rural area. So it's an asset we do eventually want to open up fully to the community. There's some improvements and things that have to be made. So this is phase 1 of that. Here's our legislative priorities the council and I are working on. State legislators are in session right now scheduled through March 10th. So we're working every day on these, trying to bring these home. And so we can take more questions on that if you have some. I spoke some to our priorities on that already. I do want to thank our state legislators. We have developed really strong relationships with our legislators, and they do amazing work for us. They really are attentive to Marysville's issues. I described the transportation issue, some of the police reform issues we're working on, and they listen and they do their absolute best to bring home projects for Marysville, and they've been very successful at it. A lot of the big projects you see in Marysville, a lot of the grants and all the different things come because we have good folks serving us in Olympia that are working on our behalf for that. So I want to thank them for that. Agency partnerships, proud of all that our city accomplishes, but it takes a team to do these things. I mentioned some of the partners, and we listed them all off there, so it'd be impossible to remember all of them. We'll have some more coming here on another slide, but everything from Economic Alliance Snohomish County, our chamber, the Marysville School District that we partner with, and we're actually starting monthly meetings with the school district, board to board. I want to thank, we've got Wade here, one of our new school board members, Wade Reinhardt, and I know the new board has asked, and we're really excited about meeting council to board, as well as the administration, all at the table once a month to see what we can do to partner even further and make sure that all the boats are rising, both at the city and the school district. It's critical, and so I'm looking forward to that. So we thank them for their partnership, and I could go on, but that's why we listed it on here, so I don't forget a bunch of people. I did want to make a special note, though, of Pastor Craig Laughlin and Generations Community Church, who opened up his doors and their congregation for a cold weather shelter during the real severe cold snap we had right around the week between Christmas and New Year. And they'll be keeping this going until, and if we find another place, we'd like to find a place closer to downtown, closer to the bus lines and a flatter area with icy weather and things like that. But this is working great for right now. A lot of people have volunteered. We thank you for that. These things don't run on air. You have to have volunteers and you have to have supplies and all of that. But anyway, I appreciate the work they've done and appreciate them opening up. It was a great partnership. Snohomish County Human Services was amazing in helping to fund and get this up and running and partner with us to get it going. Link Northwest has been contracted now to do all the volunteer staffing and kind of run this shelter. And then Community Transit's providing some free bus rides to it. I want to thank our fire marshal and our building official who got this thing open in record time because we had a cold weather and we couldn't take another day. And so that was great work on their part. Some final community partnerships here to put up with some of the social service organizations and some of the clubs like Rotary and Kiwanis, and we could go on and on with that. And I just want to thank all of those folks. These are important community organizations. When you talk about service clubs and different entities, Housing Hope and Maud's House and all of these do incredible things for our community. They donate a lot of money towards scholarships for kids to go to college, and they do a lot of other things. So we're really appreciative of that. I don't know if we can get that slide up. Maybe we're stuck there, but I wanted to also say one final thing. It's not, I don't know if the Ever Gospel Mission's not on there, I should have looked at it and added them. We have what's called mesh houses, micro emergency shelter homes in Marysville. These are homes that our city council has purchased that we open up for people that are homeless. In some instances, it's been a mom and children. In other instances, it's been people that have gone through our embedded social worker program. When they go through drug treatment, they get about 6 months of temporary housing. That's oftentimes not enough to get them stable and ready to go. So in some instances, we moved them out of that into a mesh home to keep them from going back out into the woods or something like that. And I know we're looking at some things we'll be looking at here later in February with the council and potentially purchasing more of these. But the way that works is we have Allen Creek Community Church, who kind of provides a volunteer entity of people that go and meet with them and mentor and help those folks. There's a couple that's come out of this who struggled with this in their own lives and has particular credibility. And then the Everett Gospel Mission. The Everett Gospel Mission helps screen people, ensure that they're ready to make this step. And they also provide a backstop that if someone gets into trouble in these homes, which I don't think we've ever had, or maybe in one instance they've had to pull someone out, we don't have to throw them out into the streets, right? They go back to the Gospel Mission, try and get stable again. And so I just wanted to point that out on that. And that, I want to thank all of our city workforce. I know I did at the beginning, but we have 299 employees in the city of Marysville for a city of over 70,000. That's one of the lower employee to citizen ratios in the state. That means you get a lot for your tax dollar. And we have more budgeted positions. It's just a tough hiring market right now. So everybody is working really hard. So hopefully if things aren't quite where you want them all the time, maybe you can keep that in mind. I appreciate all the citizen feedback we get. And if you see a pothole, reporting it is a great help through our Report a Pothole program. I get people that'll email in too on different public safety issues, which leads to a full email inbox for the chief. But he's great at we're dealing with that. But the point being, proactive citizenry really helps us. If you see something suspicious, please call 911. You can never call 911 too much if it's legitimate. And it records these things. You've got a particular problem house in your neighborhood, calling 911, builds a track record. So all of a sudden it shows up on our stats, hey, we got a problem with this house. So that kind of help is really important. But I'll say there's a lot of budgeted positions. We need to grow our city staff, and it's already budgeted. The money's already in the budget. We're just trying to find quality folks to fill the positions. Hopefully that will begin to loosen up here as we get into 2022. And with that, I've talked enough. Hopefully, I want to thank you too. First of all, I want to thank you for coming out like I did at the beginning, both online and here. And I would love to take questions. It's really my favorite part of this. We'll do more coffee clatches, but this can kind of be a mini coffee clatch. So we can start here in the audience. If anybody has a question, we'll just alternate back and forth. Thanks. We've got a roving mic, I think. It's anybody in the, oh yeah. Anybody back here have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm the one with the roving mic.
Yeah, he's not going to ask it. Well, it'll help with the mic just so, but yeah.
Hello. I was curious, we always call it the redfish, bluefish, but like we do a lot of trail walking. So
yeah.
From the boat launch trail to the other side, which is the Olympic Park trail side of the slough.
Right.
I was curious when that project, or if that project was in order to connect those two to make a loop around. Yeah, got it. Good question. So the question for those online was on the EB Waterfront Trail, will we be able to connect both sides? And I'm going to ask Jeff to kind of pipe in here. There's issues with connecting because of some of the unstable material underneath there, so we won't be able to connect it across there, but we do have a phase 3 on the other side. But Jeff, do you mind? You're technically sound on that.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to cross a trail where the slough where there's a breach from the dike, but we do have plans. We have about another 1.5 miles of trail that we're looking to connect. That includes, if you've been out on the trail, especially on this side, the gravel section that connects the existing trail to Sunnyside Boulevard. We're looking to make that connection. And then connect the First Street bypass trail segment all the way to 53rd and Sunnyside, near the Sunnyside Grocery. So that in essence is going to create kind of a bit of a half of a figure 8, but that will allow some looping and certainly some connections.
Yeah, for those online, I apologize, but basically, yeah, we aren't able to connect those two because of some of the soils underneath, but there will be a third phase about 1.5 miles on the other side. And we also would love to take questions online if you want to type them into the chat or let us know. Yeah. Connie.
I'm taking the online questions
Yeah.
for you. So we have one from Danielle asking, when will we get beach volleyball courts? Our kids need more venues to be active and healthy.
Danielle asked when we'll get beach volleyball courts. Wow, that's a good question. I'll be honest, I hadn't thought of that. It's probably something that we should take a look at. So yeah, I don't have an answer because we don't have any plans for a beach volleyball court right now, but it's certainly something we look at. This is how pickleball started, I will say. If you'd asked me if we would have pickleball courts 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said, what's pickleball? And here we go. But that's how the process works is you bring those ideas forward. The council ultimately has the budget. The council budgeted the dollars for the pickleball court. That's why it got done so quickly. And so it's something we can talk about and see if there's a real need in the community. What I would encourage you to do, though, is what the pickleball club did is the more individuals who are interested in utilizing a facility, the more sense it makes to spend taxpayer dollars on it, right? So if we have 50, 60, 70 folks that say we want to play beach ball regularly, that'll make a difference as opposed to if there's just a handful. And that's just the way things are looked at. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in that, to get your friends and others that are interested and put some form of a plan together on how and when you would use it and present that to us at a council meeting, or you can just get it to me and I'll get it to the council and we can go from there. Great question, though, and I appreciate that. Those community-initiated ideas are usually how stuff happens at the end of the day. Any other questions, either online or in the audience here? Don't be bashful.
I have another online one.
Go ahead.
From Dale. Not sure if you have any say or influence on community transit. There's your cue.
Yeah.
Currently, it takes 4 buses to get to the stadiums in downtown Seattle from Marysville. It would be great to have a direct bus from Marysville to Northgate where the light rail is.
Ah, very good, Dale. I am on the community transit board, so I will take that idea. And I understand what Dale's, I love to go to the stadiums as well, and I like the link light rail from Northgate. So I can relate to that. So Marysville and Northgate, great question, and I'll see what we can do. I know it generally comes down to cost, but if there's a lot of riders interested in that and we have a growing community, then it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. Good question.
Thank you, Mayor. Question about Smoky Point.
Yeah.
Are we going to do anything with Smoky Point in Marysville, trying to clean that up with all of the crime? Police chief are probably aware of it. Crime rate going there with the people coming off the street trying to get money, selling drugs. Is there a possibility of taking Marysville and expanding it to Smoky Point, or is it going to remain unincorporated? I know you've talked about that, but has there been any decision around there?
Yeah, good question. The question was Smoky Point area and a lot of crime and things of that nature that take place out there. It is one of the areas where our crime has increased the most, probably, huh, Chief? Smoky Point area. And it is, so a portion of that is in Marysville. On the Costco side, Costco, Target, Best Buy, that whole area is all in Marysville. The other side of the freeway is Arlington, kind of the Safeway side. And, you know, these folks that are committing crimes are kind of moving back and forth in between both areas. We definitely realize it's a problem. It has been an area that we focus on. It's a zone that's mapped on our police as an emphasis area. But it's a struggle, to be honest with you, in that area. A lot of it is, and this is an area where it's tough to deal with, but a lot of the commercial crime, the stealing from stores goes on out there because there's so many big box stores and so many stores. And a lot of our commercial entities across the country have kind of really ceased to try to combat those issues. And I think that's disappointing in a lot of ways. I would really encourage our business community to take those things seriously and help us. So I hate to, I'm not blaming the victim. It's not their fault by any stretch of the imagination. But if people feel there's no consequences for going into a store and walking out with a pair of shoes, a lot of people are going to go into a store in this environment. We're going to walk out with a pair of shoes because the cops aren't going to be able to get there in time to stop it. But if we can get some element of assistance with that, I think it'll help. Now, that doesn't eliminate our responsibility either. We've had an ongoing conversation up there in that area with business owners about hardening their targets. What I mean by that if you want to stop people from, we had a lot of complaints, for instance, of, say somebody's teenager goes into work at Starbucks and is stumbling over somebody on heroin in front of the doorstep at 5 in the morning that morning. Well, you know, ways you can help with that, or a lot of these places had outdoor outlets that they would charge things on. Some of the facilities were giving away food and all that. You may say, well, that's great, they're giving away food. Well, we have a food bank, and we have a lot of free meals in the community that entities that are prepared for and capable of doing that in a safe way put on. Right in Marysville, community lunches, breakfast, whatnot, and like I said, a food bank. There's better ways to feed people than to just hand something out at a restaurant, and that might also put other people in an uncomfortable or dangerous situation. So those are some of the things we can do. But Chief, if you wouldn't mind coming up here so the online audience can hear you, I'd like you to weigh in a little bit on this, because I know we talk about the north end a lot, and I'd like to just have you weigh in too as police chief.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And so in the north end, some of the biggest increases that we've seen have been commercial burglaries. Then, as the mayor indicated, some thefts from our big box businesses. One of the initiatives that we're moving forward with, you know, the mayor kind of reviewed with you some of the shortcomings that we have in terms of staffing. So we have to be a little smarter about how we move into these strategies to try and impact crime, when frankly I just don't have the police officers to do it. So one of those ways is we've been working with the Washington State Organized Retail Theft Organization. They have some great trainings that we can provide to our local stores to help them both educate and encourage their employees to do exactly what the mayor's asking, is like get involved, right? We're not asking them to put their employees at risk, but we do want to know when the theft occurs. We do want to know when somebody comes into the store and looks like they're going to be committing a crime, because then we can get there and we can try and impact that and stop that. We are not going to give up on this kind of thing, because frankly our community is too important to us. It also involves partnerships, right? One of the things that I did when I first got here was start working immediately with our local chiefs, Lake Stevens, the Tulalip Police Chief, and then also Chief Ventura in Arlington. It really requires close collaboration between each of the police departments to make sure that we're not just pushing problems around, but that we're actively taking steps to try and solve it, impact crime, drive down disorder, and create a safe community. So I can tell you that one of my strongest priorities for us as we rebuild our police department in terms of our numbers is to get that proactive team back out there, so that essentially we have a rapid deployment team that can go and impact crime, impact these problem areas as they crop up around town. Because we know that as soon as we're able to, say, interrupt a crew that's creating problems, or interrupt folks who are creating disorder in our community, that we're able to restore that faith that you have in your government, the strong investment that you make in public safety in this community, and honor the community by making sure that we're responsive to those concerns and keep it safe for you. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Great question, thank you. Next question. Go ahead, Connie.
Okay, we have a question from Debbie. Will the profit from the golf course and hotel motel tax move forward to build youth tournament facilities?
Okay, good question from Debbie. Will the profit from the golf course and hotel motel tax build, I believe it was youth athletic fields?
Tournament facilities.
Tournament facilities, yeah. So with the golf course, that's in enterprise fund. So in other words, we can't take profits from the golf course and build roads with them, or build other entities with them. It has to either pay back some of the debt to the general fund or be plowed back into the golf course. And is that a correct understanding, Dave? Dave in here? Yeah, Dave's shaking his head, yes, yeah. So I want to be careful people understand that. So let's say even if we were making $2 million a year off the golf course, which we're not even close, not anywhere near that, you can't take that money and then go build athletic facilities or pave streets or hire police officers with it, because it's an enterprise fund, and by state law it has to be used on that golf course, just like your garbage money. We can't say, well, we're just going to raise garbage rates so we can use all that excess money to hire police officers. Any garbage money has to be used for garbage trucks and garbage folks that haul the garbage and all that. But I will say hotel motel money can be used for that. And I know the county has a chunk of hotel motel money, and they are looking at a tournament ready facility that could be located anywhere in the county. The city funds, we don't have enough, to be honest with you. There's not enough generated by the hotel motel in our city to build a tournament facility, at least not right now. I think if it did generate that, I think the council would be interested in looking at that. I know I would as well. But just to be perfectly honest, we don't have that anywhere near that level of money coming in right now. But the county does, and the county is looking at that kind of a facility. Not sure where it will be sited and when that might happen. I hope that helps answer her question.
We have more online if you,
Yeah.
I want to give everybody a chance here too.
Sure, yeah. They'll raise their hand if they have one in here,
Okay.
but yeah.
The next one is from Flo. Are there any plans to work with the tribes to address the homelessness issues shared between the communities?
Yes, good question. Any plan to work with Tulalip to address the homeless community that we share, because they do move back and forth? Yes, we meet with Tulalip council to board, similar to what I described with the school board, on a regular basis, and this is almost always a topic of discussion. Chief Scarpin's developed a really good relationship with Chief Sutter over on Tulalip, and so they do work closely on this, and we do work together on this. We realize it's a shared problem. People from Marysville go over to Tulalip. People from Tulalip will come over on this side of the freeway. And so I think, we have our mesh houses, we have our embedded social worker team. Tulalip has some housing they've put into play as well. The two departments work together, the chiefs work together. So they are doing that. The difficulty, again, is convincing the individuals in that lifestyle to get the help that they need. And that's, it's challenging. I think we're making more headway the last 5 years. In the last 4 to 5 years, we've made a lot of headway. We're better off than we were. The last 2 years kind of exacerbated the problem as more people hit the streets, and so we've got to keep chipping away at it. But we do work together and will. Anybody in the audience here, or we'll go back to online? People are used to these online coffee classes.
Another question from Angela.
Okay.
With the new off-ramp coming in, is there a plan to put a roundabout at 3rd and Columbia, similar to the others that were put in at 3rd? I continually watch people avoiding accidents because of the two-way stop.
Jeff, is there anything down the line that you can come up here too so the people online can hear you? Let our Public Works Director answer that.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. And in the works with that project, coming directly off the ramps, there will be a roundabout at that at the connection just south of the EB Slough Bridge. So that will be a good avenue for definitely traffic, to calm traffic as they come into downtown Marysville, and also provide an easier access if you're coming around to or from off I-5 there to get back to Everett if that's the location you're going. So,
thank you.
We have another question about what are the city's hiring plans to encourage and advertise to people of color to apply? I've seen an increase in the police department, but what about the rest of city government?
Yeah, good question. How are we reaching out to people of color with regards to some of the open applications was the question that came from online. So Jason Smith back there is our HR director. I know we've had a number of conversations about this, and it's something that he's working on as a relatively new director of our human resources here. Jason, do you want to come up maybe and just share a few thoughts? I think I would just say part of it is around how you interview and how you advertise these particular job openings, and just ensuring that it's getting in front of everybody, in front of a diverse group of individuals. So Jason, why don't you come up and help share some of that?
Sure. So I mean, there's a few things that we're looking at. I mean, part of it is looking at just the environment itself, so the culture that the city is doing, so internally people want to come. Because when we look at diversity, it's not just, people of color. We're trying to create an environment that makes diversity of thoughts, diversity of opinion, and so this very broad sense of it, so people can feel comfortable and know, like, hey, this is a place where I want to be. So you have that internal work that we've been doing with the Staff Equity and Diversity Committee, and then also working with community partners. So focusing on building those relationships and continue to find out, and working with police and fire and working with the different organizations as we look at what does it mean, community, where can we do better at recruiting, and then using community groups to also strengthen that. So it's definitely one of these things that takes time, but it focuses on the internal piece of it to make people want to want to continue to work here. And then it's also making sure that when people come here, they feel comfortable and they want to stay here. And then also working with communities to continue to find ways that we can better connect. So,
thank you, Jason.
Sir.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the work Jason's doing over there. What other? Yes, we've got one in the back here. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm wondering on Beach Street,
Yeah.
near 1st and 2nd Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
there is a untapped resource that used to be the Ambitions complex.
Yep.
It is attracting
Yes.
multiple types of vehicles that are parking for extended periods of time. It is becoming a dump site. There's even right now as we speak a boat that is full of junk. There is cars that park for extended periods of time, and it's becoming a safety hazard. I'm wondering if there's discussion about perhaps, rather than focusing on the crime that may be occurring there, if utilizing that property is in the works.
Excellent question. So in case you can't hear online, the old emissions site has become an area that has attracted some criminal element and just some old junk and stuff that's spread around out there. Good question. It is a topic of conversation we're having. We're aware of it and wanting to clean it up. One thing we noticed, just as a side, is when the rest area up by Smoky Point was closed down and the state closed down all their rest areas, all those folks moved out into cities and parked their vehicles or whatever. And so we noticed this in a lot of areas of the community, and it's something we're having to look at how we can legally deal with it, and what the different implications are. So it's taking a little bit of time, more time than I'm comfortable with, probably more time than she's comfortable with, but we are looking at it as are other cities. This particular area, we do need to get going on and get working on. I think we need to probably do some at the very least, some landscaping cleaning. We don't have a use we can implement right away, but yes, it is in our plan along the waterfront that'll seep up to that area that we eventually do want to use that site for something active. And that, you're right, active sites would be a great thing but it takes money and it takes planning to do that. Eventually that is the long-term plan, but in the short term we can't let it go to the rate that it is now. And so that's a good reminder that we need to redouble our efforts there, and at least get the brush taken down and probably get some officers back out there to see what we're up against maybe. And so I appreciate the reminder, and we'll get on that, and we'll at least try and provide some temporary solutions while we look at the long-term plans for that in the future. Thank you. And this is an area, like I said, we noticed this just if people are thinking, well, that's not the only site. We did know that at the waterfront park we had some of this as well, and some other areas of the city. And so, just a lot of that traffic came out of the rest areas into communities. What other questions?
I'm back in.
You over here, and then we'll go to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a question about the hotel on 116th. I noticed a lot of work being done there.
Yes.
And any relief on traffic on 88th by the cemetery and the church?
Yeah.
I know there's no more room there. But
Yeah, you're
right there, and it's miserable.
You're right on. Yeah. So two good questions. The hotel on 116th, and then traffic on 88th. So I'll start with the hotel on 116th. Last year at this time, I think this question was asked, and we were making no progress. So just so you know, that originally that hotel was slated to be done years ago, and the owners abandoned the project, and so it eventually went to the bank in foreclosure. That's a very long process, and there's nothing a public entity can do. I mean, we can't take the property or seize the property, so we had to wait that out. But now that it got sold, our community development team with Director Haley Miller has worked feverishly to try and encourage and get these people the permits and the things they need to finish that off. That's why you're seeing that progress, is A, it got bought finally, and B, our team has been itching to get at this project, so they're trying to push it through as quickly as possible. So I know the people that live out there and all of us are excited to see that done, because it was a real eyesore. So I'm glad you recognize that, and the progress will continue to be made, and hopefully soon we'll see a full functioning hotel out there. Traffic on 88th is a much more difficult problem that we've wrestled with for years. We We have had the budgeted money to do, and this would be a minor improvement, but it would be improvement to do a right drop lane going from east to west. Because if you drive that, which you probably do if you live there, once that light hits red, you may say, well, there's 3 people in front of me, and I just want to go right. And I got to wait for all this to clear out. Maybe there's a train coming through. Where if you had a right drop lane, you could just zip out, turn right, and get on your way. So a right drop lane would be of a small assistance there. But again, the problem we have is we are dealing with a cemetery right there. And our attorneys have been working with the attorneys of the cemetery. I believe they're out of Pennsylvania on that side. I know the church owns the other side, but it's run by, I think, a group out of Pennsylvania on that side, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's just really tough. When you get into cemeteries, they have almost no motivation to work with you. I mean, and when you talk about people's graves and all the different things that can happen with that, it just is immensely challenging to try and deal with that. So we're trying to work our way through that to eventually put that right drop lane in. We're also looking at some other creative solutions. The Toledo Tribes have some money, and they're doing, I don't know if you've seen we put out I think on our social media or something, the roundabout project they're looking at doing further west. I think will help some. It's not perfect. What we'd like is, if we just don't have the money for it, is a full single point urban interchange at 88th that would help with that congestion on 88th there. But you're still going to have a little bit of loggerheads down when you have state there. The tracks don't help either. You got the cemetery, you got the railroad tracks, so you can't get much right away there. Just a really challenging area. I know we've looked, Jeff, at roundabouts and different things there. That's not easy either. Am I missing anything that's we could throw darts at and try? I know we have a plan for an extra lane up 88, but you got right away, you got houses really close to there. I think that will eventually happen, but you got to buy up a lot of right away and do that too. And
I just think there's more outside the box things that we need to look at there, especially in terms of signal operation.
Yeah.
So those are kind of on my radar coming up here, especially as we look at a comprehensive plan effort updates that we're going to be going through in the next year or two.
Yeah. So I think you'll see some improvements with the roundabouts that the Toledo project accomplishes, some signal improvements that Jeff's talking about, but I don't want to set expectations where they shouldn't be. I think it's going to be modest improvements. So we're hopeful that the extra interchange on the south here at 529 and then the 156 interchange north, some people may decide maybe it's better to take a different interchange, and that'll free up a little bit of traffic from 88 too. Even if you have to drive a little more internally in the city, it might be worthwhile. Great. 2 great questions. Thank you. I think we had one here, and then we'll go online.
I'm not going to go.
Okay, go ahead.
You have one online, then I will.
Okay.
We have a question from Bill. There's been an increase in graffiti and tagging in the area, particularly bad on 100th by Fred Meyer.
Okay.
Is anything being done to combat this?
Graffiti, particularly by Fred Meyer. Yeah. Was it Fred? Bill. Okay. Great question. And yes, graffiti's always on and the chief's writing a note down for your graffiti by Fred Meyer. We'll get someone out there, hopefully maybe tomorrow even, to take a look at that. We do, and this is where citizens are particularly helpful, just like with the potholes. If you proactively report it, we'll get somebody out, and we have a program where if an entity will take one of the, I think, 3 colors we have, we'll even paint over it. But we require these to be painted over really quickly, because the longer you leave graffiti up, the more you get. When people see it painted over real quickly, they tend to move on to other areas. And so we have a team that will go out and paint over this and talk to entities, and if they don't want us painting with one of our colors, get them to paint over it and deal with it. So it's a matter of us finding out about it and getting out there. So the more citizen input we have on this, the better. But this was implemented over a decade ago when we had these graffiti problems, to put this team into place and to put a proactive team even where the city would help paint it over. So Chief, we can maybe just get on that, and we appreciate that being brought up to us. And please do report graffiti if you see it, report potholes if you see it, and report suspicious activity if you see it. That'll help our whole team help you get that stuff cleaned up as quickly as possible. Great question.
I'm going to ask it, and you may not be able. You may not be able to answer it. It's between the Toledo Tribe and the city. Are you allowed to send the embedded social worker into Toledo? Are they a part of Snohomish County, or are they only Marysville? What is the rules about going into Toledo and helping them with Toledo and Marysville? Is there an agreement between the tribe in the city, I haven't heard anything, and there's been a lot of question now, can you go into Tulalip because they're a sovereignty nation? Or if you can only go into Marysville now, what is the rules between?
Are you talking about policing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so policing between Marysville and Tulalip, yeah. They're a sovereign nation and they're also their own jurisdiction. So just like our officers couldn't go into Everett and proactive. Now, I think that would be different if an officer happened to be in another city or jurisdiction witnessing a violent crime or something. I think that's an obvious area where you could help. But proactively, no. We respect the boundaries of other cities and certainly the Tulalip tribes. And,
I should have been more specific
yeah.
about drug and crime. You're talking about drugs.
Yeah, and it would be and that's a good question. It would be the same thing. So if there's a drug house in Tulalip or in Everett or in Arlington, yeah, we wouldn't proactively go into those communities to deal with it. That would be their jurisdiction. If they asked for help, that's another story. Or if we asked them others for help, then they would come into our city. Good question. Oh, we have one here.
Hi, it's Amber again.
Yeah.
I live up on Sunnyside, so near the nursery over there.
Yeah.
And so I used to be able to go down 4th Avenue and go down 47th next to 76 and hang that, I guess it would be a left go on the back of a 3rd on Sunnyside.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that turn is no longer there.
Yes.
Now you gotta go either turn early, go all around the roundabouts, or you gotta go back on the road that's next to Jenny Park to go take a right and go next to that market to get back on the sunny side, which is like either one of two really kind of awkward, and I feel really terrible about the residents that live either on 3rd Avenue or the residents now coming down to the market, because now all that traffic now has to go through either of those two areas. And I was curious to know why why there isn't a turn lane at the 76 to go that way, or if there will be improvements now at the market interchange to help address and get people to turn on the sunny side.
Yeah, so good question. I don't know that I can repeat the whole thing, but essentially with the First Street Bypass project, there was some access to 3rd taken away. And Jeff's an engineer, so he'll be able to better explain this. But the idea is, honestly, is trying to get as much traffic flow on First and out.
So you're coming from 4th Avenue from downtown, making exit 99 and trying to get up into Sunnyside.
Off of exit 199 up into Sun. Yeah.
Downtown.
And then you want to turn and take a left up there. Yeah. And some things had to be sacrificed for the traffic flow of the First Street Bypass and going the other way. That's the honest answer. And if you have a left-hand turn there, blocking off some of that quick access to get people, the idea is the First Street Bypass is basically there's no ingress egress, is to get people in and out as quickly as possible and up into the Sunnyside foothills. So it's not a perfect system. We actually sweated the details on this quite a bit because we saw and knew that this problem would be created for certain folks, and it was a trade-off. And I'll ask Jeff as an engineer, he can probably explain it far better than I have, but we sat in those meetings and it was a trade-off to try and keep that traffic moving. I know we were going to look, I don't know that there are any really great solutions that wouldn't reverse that trade-off. Jeff, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you mind just sharing your thoughts as an engineer behind it?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's a really good question.
Well, there is a turn lane already there at 76 to be able to take that left to go up in there, but they took it away from us and remember we can't turn there.
Yeah, so, and this is, as the mayor said, and once the interchange comes, that 529 interchange comes, that's going to put a lot more traffic.
Understood.
So the analysis shows that traffic would basically back up into the bypass route. So we don't want that happening. So the alternative route is, that we are working on, and you mentioned the Sunnyside Market, the store there. 53rd and Sunnyside Boulevard is an intersection. We're going to be putting a signal there. So the route, again, we've taken away a left turn southbound to Sunnyside Boulevard, 3rd Street. The new route is going to become the 53rd connection between 528 and Sunnyside Boulevard at 53rd. Again, signals in the works. We actually received a grant fund for that. We're also constructing a trail that connects the UB Waterfront Trail to Jennings Park with that project, making it safe for pedestrians. Ultimately, if we were to not do those improvements, or I guess the reason, what I'm trying to say, the amount of improvements, additional improvements that we'd have to do at 4th and 47th and 3rd and 47th is really cost prohibitive at this time. We're on the order of another $10 million to do improvements at those intersections to create the additional turn lane capacities. The signal at 53rd and that route, while not the best, easiest route to, it is a change, and it's about change too.
Well, we just go about turning those residents in the roundabouts prior to so I can go straight through that light on 76. But I was so back and you got people whizzing in those roundabouts like crazy, either going that route or going up to the market to get up in there.
Right.
So I always feel just like people are now whizzing through those like crazy. And I always feel like, oh, this is terrible. This doesn't feel right.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
You bet.
Hopefully that helped. I know that this is a pretty technical area, but yeah, hopefully that helped to answer some of the stuff. It might not be a perfect situation, but there are some improvements, yeah. Thank you for that question. Did we have one online? No, okay. Another one in the house, in the Opera House here? All right, one.
Hey, Mayor, do you want to let people know, and I don't know that you said it or not,
Yeah.
reporting potholes and graffiti, you can do that online.
Yes.
Real easy. You don't have a phone call. Just do it online real easy. I've done both.
Yeah.
And it's sweet and easy, and they get it done.
Yeah. Reporting potholes and graffiti online, Councilmember Richards said, and it really helps us, and it's really easy. Go to the city website, report a pothole link, and there's a report graffiti link. It really helps us get out there. You know what, I really noticed this after the snowstorm we had, our roads got, well, and all communities' roads just got beat up big time. We've got gaping potholes everywhere, and so our folks are running around trying to find them. I'm reporting them every day after I drive around and look and find them. But we go from Sunnyside all the way out to Smoky Point, from the freeway all the way to Highway 9, a lot of lane miles, so we can't have people just driving around looking for potholes, so it really helps when folks call those in, and we've gotten a lot of them. We've gotten a lot of report potholes. We've had tough weather to repair them into, all this rain. You just temporary fill it, but we need some good weather to really put a hard fill in some of those. Great, thanks, Councilmember Richards. That's a big help to report that. Any final questions online, or do we have another online one?
We do. Sorry. From Ginger, the curb bump outs at the waterfront park entrance on First are hard to see in the dark.
Oh.
Is there a way to get reflectors on them?
Yeah, good. Yeah, we can do that. Thank you. Is that something you can take a look at for us? Yeah, curb reflectors on the bulb outs at the waterfront park was the question, and yes, we can get on that.
Yeah, we done that at 3rd Street.
Yeah, yep. See that? I love this part, that this is what happens in the coffee classes too. We do really get ideas from people that use this stuff every day and are able, some of these things we can implement real quickly if it's stuff like that. So thank you, great idea. Anything else? All right. I really appreciate you all coming out. I appreciate the great questions and appreciate the time. Open door policy, feel free to email me or call me at any time. Happy to answer other questions or take other comments from you. And we'll have another coffee class here. We'll keep those series going throughout the rest of 2022. Thank you, folks. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.